So I hadn't done a video since the Van Morrison one, and I'm planning on doing some videos on Scott Walker and some other more obscure. Scott Walker's not that obscure, but some groups that are maybe more obscure in the future. But I had a little burst of inspiration that I just wanted to do a quick video about. And so, one of the things I was thinking about, because for I don't watch much television. I don't watch shows on Netflix. The only shows I really watch are 90 Day Fiance and 90 Day Fiance spinoffs. And I was looking for something on TV to watch the other night because I watch just a little TV before I go to sleep, and I found Three's Company episodes on like TV Land or Nick at Night or something like that. So I was watching those, and I was really enjoying that. And it's funny because it was like it's set in Santa Monica, and I remember the show when I was a kid and in syndication and stuff, and it captures this really small window of this mid to late 70s slice of Los Angeles. And it's funny because there was in one of the episodes I watched, Chrissy, Suzanne Summers' character, she's dating a guy who's 40, and her roommates are all tripping out about how that guy is old, and they're making all these old jokes. And they say a few things here and there about sort of things that are referring to um people that would be like baby boomers, which I guess that's what those characters would be, the main characters of Three's Company, and being with it and things like there was another expression too, I can't remember, that kind of relates to that. And the point of this video, which is going to be hopefully shorter than usual, is this idea that the and this is kind of goes to my experience with my parents, who are a little on the older side to be baby boomers, and then also my aunts and uncles and stuff that were like more straight up baby boomers. And I was thinking about how, like, I had an uncle, and he was into the Stones, and he was into a lot of that really like classic rock and roll that would have been very exciting and trying to tap into this sense of authenticity in the 60s. But then like later, he kind of just he would listen to other things that were kind of antithetical to that sort of sense of authenticity. And other people, I realized, like, the point that I was going to make is that the baby boomers, they seem to be people who they were entertained by artists and musicians who were really concerned with authenticity. And there's different complaints you can make about these different artists, with the Stones, Fleetwood Mac, through various incarnations, Led Zeppelin, whatnot, about how those bands were drawn to really kind of maybe esoteric at the time, or avant-garde, or obscure artists, and then they went and they popularized this. And the people who are the baby boomers, they kind of just got that music through those artists as it was processed through them, and it kind of it lost that authenticity because it's not coming from the original source, but it's containing it. And at the height of the 60s and Woodstock and kind of the early 70s, the baby boomers were consuming that music and art, and they were really into it. But I kind of think, and this is the point of the video, is I kind of think that they were never really concerned with the what we would consider the authenticity of the music. And so that's why when things like disco and ABBA and contemporary AOR pop and stuff, which I would represent as kind of like Phil Collins in the 80s and stuff, why when that stuff came along, there was no like cognitive dissonance for them to move from liking this kind of really distilled rock and roll of the 60s into this more conventional commercial kind of music. And when you look at those old record collections that they have, they're really worn because they were just using the records for what they're intended for, which is just to play the music that they want to hear. They did not have this concern about their collection. Now, I mean, I'm speaking in general terms. Obviously, there was always like outlier, not necessarily even outliers, but people within the culture and subcultures that really got into music and really collected and whatever. Keeping your records and stuff in really pristine condition, that's like the hallmark of a collector or music aficionado or whatever. So besides with the Gen X, and the baby boomers did have this height of affluence, but I think one of the distinctions that I'm making in this video is that I think with Gen X, besides the fact that affluence was kind of dying down, you know, what strangely starts coming up with Gen X is this more, no, we want things that are authentic, we want things that are real. So when the artists that kind of presaged the Gen X, which is punk, were espousing authenticity, the and post-punk especially too, and no wave and things like that, the Gen Xers really latched on to that ideologically. And that's when the idea of curation and collection and keeping, and when you curate your music collection, you keep it really pristine for the most part. That's when that came into play. So if you were to find like a Gen Xer's record collection in contrast to a baby boomer's record collection, I think you'd find two things. I think with the baby boomer, you'd find like Crosby, Stills, Nash, maybe Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, ABBA, a really wide variety of music, records that are all really worn and played. And with Gen Xers, you would find records that are more particular, like, you know, like indie rock, like REM and things like that, and Beat Happening and Husker Du and whatever, and they'd be in much better shape because the Gen Xers, I think, kind of rediscovered authenticity and this sense of preservation that the baby boomers didn't have. I think the baby boomers were just sort of freely consuming the music that was being produced for them by the artists who were interested in those things, but the artists are outliers too. So it's just an interesting thing. And I'm not necessarily saying that one is better than the other, because I think now where we are in society is we can have the stuff that we sort of casually listen to or whatever, and then the stuff that we really feel we have to cultivate and curate and show other people to impress. You know, like you might listen to some stuff on Spotify or streaming services, but not necessarily be like, I'm going to buy this on vinyl. And, you know, so you're making this sort of commitment to the artistry of whatever it is you decide to purchase. And it's just an interesting distinction that I think has arisen. And that's the topic of the video. So if you like it, you know, like it, subscribe, and listen to the Happy Casualties, which you're going to mainly do on streaming services because I don't have a lot of physical copies anymore. But anyways, thanks.